Hello guys and gals, and welcome to a new tutorial. In today's tutorial we are going to be going over these nice little food poofs. Yay, feed poofs! So we're going to be setting up a particle system and then attaching these to our character so that we poof whenever our character hits the ground. So you can see they're quite stylized, but obviously if you wanted to go for a more realistic approach you could make some more realistic particles, but for this we're going to be doing this nice stylistic little poof, which is quite cool. Now, a lot of people, when they set this up, they'll be doing it using line traces. We're not going to be doing that. That's a total waste of resources. You don't need to have any sort of blueprint support for this. So let's do it. Let's get into this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove all of it off screen, ha 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 ha, so that you guys cannot see things out of order. So we're just going to get rid of those and press save on that little guy. There we are. Okay, so first thing I'll do is I'll just right click and we're just going to have a lovely little folder. We'll just call this poofs. Alright, so I am going to provide you with the static mesh that we're going to be using, which is this little guy here, just sm_poof. Let's just get this back onto the correct screen. Here we are. Let's see. Here he is, little poof. Get out of here, mannequin. Little poof. You see here, it's literally just a couple of low poly spheres that I've just stuck together, and this is going to be our poof. Huzzah! That's our lovely little mesh. So this is what we're going to be using to make the particle system. I'll provide a link in the description so that you can download this rather than making your own. But as I say, it is just a few spheres that I've stuck together. So we have the mesh. Hopefully you've downloaded the mesh. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our material. So we're going to right click material, and we'll call this m_footpoof, like so, and we'll open this up. And now to get the nice little stylized thing that we had in the start, we're going to be switching our blend mode over to translucent, and we're going to leave this as default lit because this is going to be more of a dust. We are going to be having our lighting affected, so if we're in shadows it will look darker. So we're not going to be using the emissive, so we're going to leave this as a default lit. And what we're going to do now is right click and say particle color, like so, and we're going to plug the color straight into base color. Now we're not going to be using the alpha for the particle color. We're going to be running our alpha directly through a dynamic parameter. And to do this, what we will do is we'll right click and we'll find value step, and we will plug result into opacity, like so. And now to set this up, what this is going to do is it's going to look at a gradient, and then it's going to lerp between the values in that gradient and change the value based on where our scalar parameter is. So here we've just got a half a circle, like so, because by default we have our default value at -0.1 and there's no gradient in there. If we were to hold T and left click for a texture, and then under the texture we will find noise, we'll use T_noise01. This is starter content, so you should have this. If you don't have this, then just open up Photoshop and render clouds and you'll get the same sort of thing. Now this is a scalar, so we just need one value. We'll plug the red channel in, like so, and then we're going to right click and search for a dynamic parameter. And what a dynamic parameter is it's a set of 4 values that we can change over time inside of our particle system to influence the material. And we're going to plug the param 1 into mask offset value, and by default this is going to be 1. So when our update previews, we should just see almost a full circle because this has got some pure black in there, so we will have a couple of little empty spots, which is fine. We're going to highlight param 1 under the param name, and we're going to call this erode. So, and we'll press apply. And now our lovely material is ready. Yay, material. So here we go. You can see we've got a couple of little holes in there. Oh, and one thing that we do need to quickly do, because we can see through this entirely, is just turn on two-sided and apply. So now we have this set to a two-sided material. We have a value step, we have our particle color, a dynamic parameter, and we have our mask in there. So we can close this down. That's all. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our particle system. And we're just going to get rid of the old preview one. There we are. So we're going to right click, particle system, p_footpoof. There we are. We'll just drag this into our world, and we're just going to line it up with his foot for now, just so that we can see this as a little preview. And we're going to double click our particle system to open it. And now we're not going to be using sprites, so what we will do is right click, type data, new mesh data, and this will give us a default mesh cube. And we're going to change this. If we head to wherever we've got our mesh, to our mesh here, and now you can see that we have our nice poofs, but they're a bit big. So what we're going to do is we're going to say initial size. Let's open this fully so you can see what we're doing. Initial size maximum is going to be 4 on X, Y, and Z, and the minimum is going to be 2. But because we have different values here, we will get some that are stretching a little bit, but we want these to be the same. So under locked axis, we're just going to lock axis X, Y, and Z, and this will make sure that our X, Y, and Z values are always the same so that none of these things look too deformed. And if we look, there we are, we now have some much smaller poofs, but still they're running up his leg. We don't really want them to be running up his leg, and the reason this is happening is because we have an initial velocity. We're going to turn that off, and now our poofs are just going to sit down at the bottom of his foot where we put the actual particle system. We don't want them to always be in the same spot, and the easiest way that we're going to make them poof outwards is by right-clicking, heading to location, and then selecting cylinder. Now by default, this cylinder is going to be quite large. You can see here now we are getting some nice poofy action, but it's a little bit too far away from his foot. This is like mega super dusty. So what we're going to do is select our cylinder, and we're just going to drop our start height down to 1. We're not going to drop it to 0, we're just going to drop it to 1 because we need to be able to have a little bit of a rim on there so that we can have these things affected by the cylinder's velocity. If we were to scroll down underneath Cascade, we have B3D draw mode. If we turn this on, you'll now be able to see your actual cylinder here. So you can see it's a 1 unit high cylinder, but our radius is still 50, which if we look is a bit too large. So we're just going to lower this down, maybe 5, 10. 10. Yeah, so we'll have a 10 radius, and now you can see that we're getting a really localized poof just around his foot, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. Yay! Now, we don't have our material on here, so what we're going to do is we're going to right-click, and then under Material, we're going to select Mesh Material. We're going to click on Mesh Material, add a new element to the array, and just drag our foot poofs material in there. Now it's going to take a couple of seconds just for this to update itself because by default our flags will not be set up. If you were to scroll down with the material open and get to our flag usage here, you can see here it's updated mesh particles for us. It's turned it on, but you can see this little arrow means that that's not its default. It's because the engine is updating that for us when we've automatically, well, it's doing it automatically when we've put the material onto the mesh in the particle system. So that's just going to update for us. It might take a couple of seconds for that to happen, so we're going to do some other stuff in the meantime. We're going to head back to our cylinder, and what we're going to do is we're going to have these things poof outwards. And the easiest way to have these poof outwards is with our cylinder selected. If we were to scroll down, we can find velocity. If we turn this on, we now have a little bit of velocity affecting our particles. You can see here they're starting to move outwards, and their constant velocity scale is set to 1. If we were to check that in here, you can see it's not very far that they're poofing outwards, and now you can see that we have indeed got our little material on there. Yay, poofy material. Cool. So now that we have our particles moving, excuse me, I lost my voice a little bit there. Now we have our particles moving, we're going to have to change our lifetime because this is now lasting far too long. So our lifetime by default is 1 and 1, so they always last for 1 second. We're going to set this to maybe 0.2 and 0.5, so some of them disappear a lot quicker, and some of them take a little bit longer to disappear. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in that erosion, because you can see right now they're just lasting the entire time. They're not eroding, they're always just the same shape. We're going to right-click, head to our parameter, and add a dynamic parameter here. Open this up. With our dynamic selected, you can see here now we have 4 possible options, which is what we had inside of our material. But you can see it's just called none, and this is now going to get a little bit confusing for you guys if you don't update this. What we'll do is under dynamic, right click it, refresh module, and it will update it with the names that we gave it. So we should have erode, and then we should have param2, param3, and param4. Now, we're only going to be using erode. You can see here it's just set to a constant of 1, so it's always going to be at 1. What we're going to do is change this to a constant curve, and immediately our particles will disappear. The reason that they've disappeared is because our curve has nothing in the array, so we're going to click this twice, one for a start point and one for an end point. We'll open this up, and you can see that both are set to 0, 0. Now, we know from the preview that we need a value of 1 for these to show up, but because we have 2 different values at 0, we're just getting the final value. So we're going to change our in value of number 1 to 1, and now you can see they fade out. They're poofing, yay, and eroding, huzzah. But you can see here we're getting this nasty triangular shape, and this is because all of the particles are in the exact same orientation. They're all spawning with the exact same rotation. So we're going to right click, rotation, initial mesh rotation, and now they're going to spawn between a value of 0 and 1, which is a 360-degree rotation. So now we're getting some nice variation in there. Yay! Now, if we were to go here, you can see it's just constantly puff, 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 puff. They just keep on coming like it's spraying these puffs rather than they're actually poofing out. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to our spawn. We're going to set our constant spawn rate to 0. We now have no particles. But under our burst, we're going to add one element to our burst list. We're going to open this up. And our count, we're going to set this to perhaps 10. We don't want too many. Just set this to 10. Like so. And you can see, there we go. Now we're just getting this nice poof of 10 particles. Poof, poof, poof. Cool. Now they're not poofing outwards enough for my liking, so we're just going to head back to the cylinder. And under the velocity scale, we're just going to set this up to something a bit higher. Go 10. 10 might be a little bit high. Yeah, maybe. What we will do is we will right click, head to acceleration, and add a drag. And what a drag is going to do is going to take our particles and slow them down until they're reaching 0. And we're going to just up this until we just get like a nice quick poof at the start. Maybe 3.5. Some of them are still going a little bit fast, maybe 4. There we go, 4. So now we're getting this nice quick poof at the start and then they slow down towards the end. But we want these to float upwards a little bit because they are going to be quite light. So we're going to right click, acceleration, constant acceleration, and we're just going to give this in the Z, maybe 200 because they're not going to last very long. There we go. So we want them to poof upwards like so in quite a rapid motion. Now again, that's a nice little poof. Cool. Now these are quite bright, they're quite white there. Now it depends on whatever color you want to have these be. You can set them to whatever you wish. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the color of a life. And we don't actually need a color of life because we're not using the alpha and we're not going to change these. So we're just going to delete it. Our particles will disappear, don't worry. Right click, color, initial color. They'll come straight back. And now we're just going to change our initial color to something a bit murkier, perhaps like so. Now we've got this nice murky color. We want to get this exact color. It is 1 in red, 0.859 in the green, and 0.578 in the blue. There we are, and now we've got this nice murky colour there, poofing. Hooray! So, we have our particles set up. Lovely. Our particles are doing what they need to do. They're poofing. The next thing that we need to do is we need to actually assign these to our mesh. So we're going to press save on our material and on our particle system because we don't want to lose these. We'll minimize this down. We'll select our player character. Now, if you're not using the standard mannequin, that's fine. This is going to work exactly the same way. Just select your character, and we'll open up the skeletal mesh by double-clicking it. And now you can see this is our lovely little character here. Up at the top, we're going to head to animation, like so. And this is going to open up our animations and any animation blueprint that might be currently in there or blends that are in there. What we're going to do is we're going to locate any one of these animations where we want a poof to occur. So we're just going to use run. Now you can see it's going to keep looping our run animation. We're going to click pause down the bottom, like so. And we have this big red square or rectangle down the bottom, and we can drag this to preview the animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate positions where his foot hits the floor, like here. Yeah, here. We're going to right click this area. We're going to add and notify play particle effect. We're going to select this. You can see now it's asking us for a particle system. So we're going to grab our foot poof, drag this into the particle system, like so. And you'll notice nothing happens. And the reason nothing happens, we'll get told if we press save. Boop. Oh no, big error. The slot is one shot, it's set to looping. So what we need to do is head back to our particle system. You can see if we go to required and scroll down, emitter loops is set to 0, which means that this is going to loop infinitely. So the engine knows that we're trying to spawn a particle system that's going to keep on looping on a looping animation. So we're just going to have infinite particles. The engine knows that that's a bad idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to change emitter loops to 1. Boop. So now it only plays once, and there you see it says completed down at the bottom here. Completed. That means that it's completed all of its loops and it's starting the emitter over. Now you can see here we also have kill on deactivate and kill on complete. We're going to turn these on just to clear up the particle system once it's completed, even though the loops are gone and we're getting a complete show up in here. Completed means that it's just finished, but our particle system will still exist in the world unless we tell it to kill on completed. Now, kill on completed, it's going to get rid of that particle system from the world when it finishes, so we won't leave anything lingering that you can't see that's going to start eating up your resources. We'll press save, head back to our third person run. If we press play, we should see it poofing. There we go. Poof, poof, poof. Alright, but we're only poofing on one step, so what we're going to do is find the other step here. Now you'll notice that that's playing the particle system in real time as we're dragging through. That's fine, it's going to play properly when we're actually in play mode, but in here we can't change how quick that plays in this preview, so don't worry about that. We'll find where the other foot hits. Boom, about there. Right click, add notify, play particle effect, and again select the particle effect and stick our poof in. Now because I already had the poof selected, I can use asset from content browser, or you can just click and drag that straight into there. And now our poof is occurring on both of these. If we press save, so, and press play, as we run around, we now get our nice dusty poof. Huzzah! No need for any of this nasty line tracing. Who needs line traces when you can just put it straight into the animation like you're supposed to? Ha 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 ha! I'm so cheeky, I'm so cheeky. Anyway, right, so you don't only have to do this for the run, and it is going to respect your blend. So if I was to pick up a controller instead of the keyboard and just move slowly, you can see because it's not part of our walk animation, it's not poofing, but as we approach run, it will start to poof as the blend is closer towards our actual run. Now if you wanted to, you could add this poof to any of your animations. So for example, let's open this back up and we'll head to our animations. We will just stretch this up. You can see here we have jump end, and this is where our character would hit the ground during an animation. Bang. Here's the main impact right there. We could add a notify here. Now obviously you wouldn't want to use the same particle effect, just because it's not going to be quite as impactful. It's going to be quite small because we've just designed it for just one of the feet. You'd want another one, but now you can see that we're playing that on our land, so we can press save, we can press play, we can run around and it will poof, and then if we jump and hit the ground, ooh, we didn't quite get a poof there. It's not playing the full animation because of the way the blends are working inside of Unreal. Gross. Just open that back up again. So let's see. We'll play it a little bit earlier. Just drag that down. We'll play it at the start, just to ensure that it's going to go off. And then it's not playing it. It's not playing. I don't think that animation is actually being used in the blend space. They're not using that animation. We'll stick it onto another animation just so that you can prove that I'm not crazy. So we'll say mannequin animation. We do jump start. Yeah, we'll do jump start. Although I'm not sure that they're using this one either inside of the animation blueprint. Obviously, if you're not using the animation, it's not going to work. Poof. I did play it there, yes. Poof. There you go. You can see it's poofing as we play a jump animation. So it's just because the land wasn't being used inside of the thing, inside of the animation blueprint. I'm not crazy, okay? This works, guys. Please don't kill me. But there we go. That's how we can set up particles to be linked to our animation instead of using nasty, ugly blueprints filled with line traces. You don't need them. You can also do other things such as play sounds, I believe, inside of your notifies. So we can open this back up. Now you might want something to play at exactly the same time. So we've got notify play sounds. So we can add our footstep sounds in here as well, rather than doing that through blueprints and line traces, because that gets really expensive. You don't want to be line tracing every frame just to check whether or not your character's hitting the ground. Just put it in the animation. You can play sound, but you can see if we wanted to play sound at the exact same moment we can play the poof. We can't because the poof is in the way. So what we can do is we can add a second track. And by adding another track, you can then add another notify in exactly the same place. So, happy times! Yay! There you go, guys. Hopefully, some of you are going to find that useful. Hopefully some of you will be able to use this. Poof, 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 poof. So there you go. Go play with your poofs. Have some fun with it. Yeah, there you go. happy Saturday or whatever day it is that you're watching. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.